A Chinese company just started selling an electric car for $9,800. That is not a typo, not a concept, not a stripped-down golf cart. A real 5-seat hatchback with air conditioning, a touchscreen, and a 250-mile range. It costs less than a used Toyota Corolla. And it just became the best-selling EV in China, outselling every Tesla model combined. The company is called BYD. Most Americans have never heard of it. By the end of this video, you will never forget it, because this car does what Detroit and Tesla both said was physically impossible. And it is already shipping by the tens of thousands every single week. If you love stories about the future arriving faster than anyone expected, hit like and subscribe. We cover the shifts most people miss until it is too late. The car is called the Seagull. It launched in April 2023. Within 6 months, it became the #3 best-selling car in all of China. Not just EVs, all cars. The base model costs $9,800. The top trim with more range and features costs $11,200. A new Tesla Model 3 in China starts at $33,000. In the US, it starts at $38,000. This is not a luxury product competing with Tesla on performance. This is a mass-market weapon competing on price, and it is winning. BYD sold over 3 million EVs in 2024. Tesla sold 1.8 million. For the first time in history, a Chinese automaker outsold Tesla globally, and they did it with cars most Westerners did not even know existed. Here is why this matters right now. For decades, the electric car was a luxury item. Tesla made it aspirational. You paid a premium for the future. The average new EV in America costs $56,000. That is $8,000 more than the average new car, period. The pitch was always, EVs cost more up front, but you save on gas and maintenance. It was a trade-off. BYD just ended the trade-off. $9,800 is cheaper than most gas cars. It is cheaper than a used Honda Civic in decent condition. There is no premium anymore. There is no trade-off. You just get a cheaper car that happens to be electric. And that changes everything. The question everyone asks is, how? How does BYD build a 250-mile EV for less than $10,000 when Tesla cannot build one for less than $38,000? The answer is not one thing. It is 5 things they did that no Western automaker was willing to do. First, they make their own batteries. Tesla buys batteries from Panasonic and Cattle. BYD is Cattle's biggest competitor. They have been making lithium batteries since 1995. They started as a battery company, not a car company. That alone cuts costs by 30%. Second, they own the supply chain. BYD mines lithium in China and South America. They refine it. They make the cathodes and anodes. They assemble the cells into packs. Tesla has to buy all of that from someone else. Third, they vertically integrate everything else too. BYD makes their own electric motors, their own power electronics, their own semiconductors through a subsidiary called BYD Semiconductor. When the global chip shortage hit in 2021 and every automaker cut production, BYD kept building cars because they were not waiting on anyone. Fourth, they design for cost from day one. The Seagull has no fancy door handles, no glass roof, no autopilot hardware. It has manual window controls. The screen is smaller, but it still has climate control, a backup camera, and connectivity. They cut every feature that does not affect daily driving. Fifth, scale. BYD built 12 new factories in 3 years. They make 7,000 cars per day just in Shenzhen. When you make that many, the cost per unit drops. Tesla makes about 4,000 cars per day globally. BYD makes more cars in one city than Tesla makes everywhere. Now let us talk about the car itself. The Seagull is 4.1 meters long. That is about the size of a Chevy Spark or a Fiat 500. It seats 5 adults, barely, but it seats them. The base model has a 30 kilowatt-hour battery. That gives you 305 kilometers of range under China's CLTC test cycle. CLTC is more generous than the EPA cycle the US uses. In real-world EPA terms, that is probably around 190 miles. The longer-range version has a 38 kilowatt-hour pack. That gets you 405 kilometers TLTC, or about 250 miles EPA. To put that in perspective, a Nissan Leaf has a 40 kilowatt-hour battery and gets 149 miles EPA. BYD is getting more range out of less battery. How? The Blade battery. The Blade battery is the reason BYD exists as a threat and not just another Chinese EV maker. It is a lithium iron phosphate battery, LFP for short. Most EVs use nickel manganese cobalt batteries, NMC. NMC has higher energy density. You can pack more power into a smaller space. But cobalt is expensive and comes from conflict zones in Africa. Nickel is volatile. NMC batteries catch fire more easily. LFP is safer and cheaper. The problem was always energy density. LFP cells were thick and heavy. You needed a bigger battery to get the same range, and that added weight, which killed efficiency. BYD solved it with geometry. Instead of making the cells into pouches or cylinders like everyone else, they made them into long, flat blades. The blades are thin enough to pack more cells into the same space. They also cool better because there is more surface area. That means you can charge faster without overheating. BYD took the Blade battery and ran it through the nail penetration test. That is the worst-case scenario for a battery fire. You drive a steel nail through a fully charged cell. If there is any thermal runaway, the cell explodes or catches fire. NMC batteries fail this test. The whole industry knows it. Tesla's batteries fail it. BYD recorded the test and put it on YouTube. The nail goes through the cell. The cell temperature rises to 60 degrees Celsius. Nothing happens. No smoke, no fire, no explosion. The battery keeps working. That video has 15 million views in China. It is the reason Chinese consumers trust BYD over Tesla on safety. And it is the reason BYD can use cheaper chemistry and still sell premium cars. Their flagship sedan, the Han, uses the Blade battery and costs $45,000. It competes with the Model S. Same battery chemistry as the $9,000 Seagull. Different size, same safety. The Blade battery is why BYD is not just selling cheap cars. They are selling the entire stack. They license the Blade battery to other automakers. Toyota signed a deal in 2023 to use it in their EVs. Ford is using BYD batteries in the Mustang Mach-E in Europe. Tesla is using BYD batteries in the Model 3 and Model Y made in Germany. Let that sink in. Tesla, the company that is supposed to be the EV leader, is buying batteries from the competitor that just outsold them. Because BYD has the better battery, and the cheaper battery, and the safer battery, all at once. That is not supposed to be possible. In engineering, you usually get 2 out of 3. BYD got all 3. And they did it by rejecting the same chemistry everyone else was using and starting over. Now the story behind the company. BYD was founded in 1995 by a man named Wang Chuanfu. He was 29 years old. He had a master's degree in battery chemistry and $3,000 in borrowed money. He started making rechargeable batteries for phones and laptops in a rented factory in Shenzhen. Nokia and Motorola were his first customers. By 2003, BYD was one of the largest battery makers in the world. Then Wang did something no one expected. He bought a failing state-owned car company called Tinchuan Auto for $250 million. Analysts called it insane. Car making and battery making are completely different industries. BYD had no experience with vehicles. Wang's reasoning was simple. The future of cars is electric, and the hardest part of an electric car is the battery. We already make the hardest part. We just have to learn the rest. In 2008, Warren Buffett bought 10% of BYD for $230 million through Berkshire Hathaway. Buffett does not invest in car companies. He barely invests in tech. But he met Wang and said the man was a combination of Thomas Edison and Jack Welch. That stake is now worth about $7 billion. Buffett still owns it. BYD launched their first plug-in hybrid, the F3DM, in 2008. It flopped. The battery was too heavy. The car was ugly. But they kept iterating. By 2015, they had the Tang SUV, a plug-in hybrid that could do 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. That got attention. By 2020, they had the Blade battery and started phasing out hybrids to go pure electric. The Han sedan launched that year. It sold 120,000 units in 12 months. That was more than the Tesla Model S sold globally that year. Then came the Seagull. BYD learned that the Chinese market was splitting into two segments. There were luxury buyers who wanted a Tesla or a BYD Han, and there was everyone else who wanted something affordable. The average household income in China is about $12,000 per year. A $10,000 car is almost a full year's salary, but it is still half the price of any other new EV. BYD realized that if they could make an EV cheap enough, the market was 50 times bigger than the luxury segment. They designed the Seagull to be the Model T of electric cars. Cheap, simple, and good enough. It worked. The Seagull outsold the Model 3 in China in 6 months. Not because it was better, because it was affordable. And affordability is the only thing that matters for mass adoption. Here is the engineering trick that made the $9,800 price possible. BYD developed a manufacturing process called CTB, cell to body. Most EVs use cell to pack. You make the battery cells, put them in modules, put the modules in a pack, then bolt the pack to the car's frame. Each step adds weight and cost. CTB eliminates the pack. The battery cells are the floor of the car. The chassis is built around the cells. The cells become a structural element. This cuts weight by 15%. It also makes the car stiffer, which improves handling. And it frees up interior space, because you are not dedicating volume to a separate battery box. Tesla has been talking about structural batteries for years. BYD shipped it in 2022. The Seagull uses CTB. So does the Seal, their Model 3 competitor. It is one of the reasons the Seal undercuts the Model 3 by $8,000 in China, while matching it on range and performance. BYD is not stopping at China. They are already the #1 EV brand in Thailand. They are #2 in Brazil. They opened their first factory in Hungary in 2024. That factory will make Seagulls for Europe starting in 2025. The European Union just imposed tariffs on Chinese EVs, up to 45%. BYD's response was to build the factory inside the EU. Problem solved. They are doing the same in Mexico. A new factory in Monterrey will make cars for Latin America, and they are eyeing the US, but they know they cannot sell there yet. The political backlash would be instant. So they are going everywhere else first. Southeast Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, Africa. Markets where price matters more than brand. By the time they are ready for the US, they will have 200 million cars on the road globally. They will not be the underdog anymore. They will be the standard. The company now makes more than just cars. BYD makes electric buses. Over 70,000 of them are on roads globally, more than any other manufacturer. They make electric trucks. They make the batteries for electric boats. They make solar panels and energy storage systems. They are trying to become what Tesla wanted to be, a full-stack sustainable energy company. Except they are doing it cheaper and faster. A BYD electric bus costs about $350,000. A comparable electric bus from Proterra in the US costs $550,000. Los Angeles bought 100 BYD buses in 2015. London bought 500. Shenzhen converted its entire public bus fleet, 16,000 buses, to electric, all BYD. That is the scale they operate at. When they commit to something, they do not test it with 10 units. They go straight to 10,000. Now let us talk about what Detroit is doing in response. Short answer, panicking. Ford lost $4.7 billion on EVs in 2023. GM lost $3 billion. Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler and Jeep, announced they are delaying their EV targets by 2 years. All three companies are lobbying Washington to block Chinese EVs with tariffs and regulations. The Biden administration responded in 2024 by quadrupling tariffs on Chinese EVs to 100%. That means a $9,800 BYD Seagull would cost $19,600 in the US after tariffs. Still cheaper than most new cars, but no longer the disruptor. The problem is that tariffs do not make American EVs better or cheaper. They just make Chinese EVs more expensive, and the rest of the world does not have those tariffs. So BYD keeps growing everywhere except the US. The legacy automakers are caught in a trap. They spent 100 years optimizing for internal combustion engines. Their factories, their supply chains, their dealer networks, their profit margins, everything is built around gas cars. Switching to EVs means tearing all of that down and starting over. It is expensive and risky. Tesla did not have that problem because Tesla started with EVs. BYD did not have that problem because they started with batteries and built the car business around them. Ford and GM are trying to retrofit an EV business onto a gas car foundation. It does not work. Their EVs cost more to make than they sell for. They are losing money on every unit. Meanwhile, BYD is profitable on every car. They have been profitable since 2021. Tesla was not profitable until 2020. Ford has never made a profit on an EV. The business model is broken. Here is the core problem for Tesla specifically. Tesla's advantage was always being first. They were the first to make EVs cool, the first to build a supercharger network, the first to do over-the-air updates, the first to get to scale. But now BYD is at scale too, and BYD has lower costs. Tesla's cheapest car in China is the Model 3 at $33,000. BYD's cheapest car is the Seagull at $9,800. That is a $23,000 gap. Tesla cannot close that gap by cutting costs. They would have to redesign the entire car and supply chain. Elon Musk has been promising a $25,000 Tesla for 4 years. It still does not exist. BYD is not promising a cheap car. They are shipping 3 million of them per year. The gap is not closing. It is widening. The other problem is the supercharger network. Tesla spent billions building it. It was their moat. But now other automakers have access to it through partnerships. Ford, GM, Rivian, Polestar, they all announced deals to use Tesla superchargers. That was supposed to make Tesla the standard. Instead, it commoditized the network. And BYD does not need the supercharger network because they are not selling in the US. In China, there are 600,000 public charging points. In Europe, there are 350,000. BYD customers charge at those. The supercharger advantage only exists in the US, and BYD is not competing in the US yet. When they do, the network will not matter because by then there will be 1 million public chargers. Tesla spent 10 years building a moat. BYD is just going to walk around it. There is one more angle that matters: used cars. Right now, the used EV market in the US is brutal. A 3-year-old Tesla Model 3 loses 50% of its value. A 3-year-old gas car loses 30%. People are afraid of buying used EVs because they do not know how much battery life is left. But the Seagull costs $9,800 new. If it loses 50% of its value, it costs $4,900 used. At that price, nobody cares about battery degradation. You drive it for 3 years and throw it away. It becomes a disposable car. That is a market segment that does not exist yet. Ultra-cheap EVs that you treat like appliances, not investments. BYD is not just competing with new Teslas, they are competing with used gas cars. And at $4,900, they win that fight too. The geopolitical piece is the wild card. The US government is treating Chinese EVs like a national security threat. The argument is that a Chinese-made car is a surveillance device on wheels. It has cameras, microphones, GPS, and a constant internet connection. All of that data goes back to servers in China. The same argument was used to ban Huawei phones and TikTok. It is not entirely paranoid. Modern cars collect enormous amounts of data: who you drive with, where you go, what you say in the car. If a foreign government has access to that data from millions of cars, it is a legitimate intelligence risk. So the US will probably never allow BYD to sell cars domestically, even if the tariffs come down. But that does not stop BYD. The US is 4% of the global car market by volume. China is 30%. Europe is 20%. BYD does not need the US to win. They just need everywhere else. So what happens next? 3 things. First, BYD keeps scaling. They are building 6 more factories globally. The target is 5 million cars per year by 2025. They hit 3 million in 2024. 5 million is not a stretch. At that scale, they will be the second largest automaker in the world by volume, behind only Toyota. Second, they go up market. BYD just launched a luxury brand called Yangwang. The U8 SUV costs $110,000. It has 4 independent motors, 1 per wheel. It can drive on 3 wheels if one fails. It can float and drive through water. It is competing with Range Rover and Mercedes G-Class. The U9 supercar costs $230,000 and does 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. BYD is not staying in the budget lane. They are going after every segment. Third, the battery technology keeps advancing. BYD just announced a second-generation blade battery with 20% more energy density. That means the same size battery gives you 300 miles of range instead of 250. Or you can shrink the battery, cut the cost, and still hit 250 miles. They are also working on solid-state batteries, which everyone agrees are the future. Solid-state batteries use a solid electrolyte instead of liquid. They are safer, lighter, and faster to charge. Toyota has been promising them for a decade. BYD is testing them in prototype vehicles right now. If they get to production first, the cost gap widens even more. A solid-state Seagull could cost $8,000 and get 350 miles of range. At that point, gas cars are obsolete on economics alone. The big question is whether Western automakers can respond in time. Ford just announced they are pausing $12 billion in EV investments. GM is cutting back too. They are retreating because they cannot figure out how to make money on EVs. Meanwhile, BYD is profitable and growing. The gap is not just in cost, it is in commitment. BYD bet the entire company on electric 15 years ago. Ford and GM are still hedging. They still make more money on gas trucks than EVs, so that is where the focus stays. By the time they fully commit, BYD will have sold 50 million cars. The window is closing, not in 10 years. Right now, the most efficient engine in history turned out to be no engine at all. And the company that figured that out first was not in Detroit or Tokyo or Stuttgart. It was in Shenzhen. Here is what it means for you. If you are in the market for a new car in the next 5 years, the options are about to explode. BYD is not the only Chinese automaker doing this. There is NIO, XPeng, Li Auto, Geely, Chery. All of them are building EVs that cost half what Western brands charge. Europe is going to get flooded first. Latin America and Southeast Asia are next. The US will be last because of tariffs, but eventually, the political pressure to allow cheaper cars will overpower the protectionism. When that happens, the entire car market resets. A new car will cost $15,000, not $40,000, and it will be electric by default because that will be the cheapest option. The transition everyone said would take 30 years is going to happen in 10, maybe 5. And it is not because governments mandated it. It is because a company in China made an EV so cheap that gas cars cannot compete. The man who started with $3,000 borrowed from relatives just built a car that every automaker on Earth now has to respond to. The future of driving was not decided in Detroit. It was not decided in Tokyo. It was decided in Shenzhen by a battery chemist who looked at the car industry and said, "You are all building this wrong." And he was right. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next story out of China is already breaking, and it makes the Seagull look like the warm-up act. Would a $9,800 EV change your mind about buying electric? Drop your answer below. I read every one.